Howdy folks, hope you're all having a good one. I really do hope you're all having a good one, by the way, I don't just say that. And welcome back to World of Tanks with the mighty Jingles, where today we're featuring, I'm not sure how you pronounce that name. It could be Lilace99, or maybe it's just Little Ace 99, you know, Little Ace. We're just going to call him Ace. Today, he is in a Tier 10 battle, obviously, because he's in a Tier 10 auto-loading American heavy tank. Very American. Just look at that camo skin. The T-57 Heavy. Although I'm looking at that Tiger II behind him, who looks almost completely stock, and I do have to feel a large amount of sympathy. The Tiger II is not a great tank at the best of times, even when it's top tier. And when you're bottom tier in what looks like completely stock configuration, like that poor guy, that definitely does not qualify as the best of times. Still, he's getting stuck in, so good for him. Now then, T-57 Heavy. I think this tank was considered mildly overpowered when it was first introduced into the game. It's definitely not an overpowered tank, although it does have some overpowered features, notably the amount of burst damage that it's capable of pushing out in 6 seconds. This thing can do 1600 damage. But even when it was introduced, I think it was more a case of people just not quite having figured out how to deal with it. Obviously, that was a long time ago, and the game has moved on, and there are far more powerful tanks than this in the game. It's still a very dangerous opponent under the right circumstances. With the right crew skills, consumables and equipment modules, you can get that reload down to 22 seconds for a 4-shot autoloader, with only a 2-second delay between each shot in the clip. It's also extremely accurate. Again, with the right setup you can get the accuracy down to 0.32 dispersion at 100 meters, although the aiming time is pretty bad. M103 spotted up ahead. And there is some toxicity going on in chat, specifically to do with the Hawk, the team's one and only light tank, who's basically camping the base. Not a terribly useful position for a scout, although I can kind of sympathise with him to a degree because the team are very weak up there. If he had rushed forward, like the standard B, there's very little support up there for him. Not many teammates in a position to shoot at anything that he spots, and he'd probably just be the first one to die. Having said that though, there are far better places that he could be than camping the base next to the tank destroyers that are all getting picked off one by one. The middle of the map, for example, is suspiciously open, so there is a certain justifiable amount of shit being directed at him in chat as Ace. Look at this. Yeah, that's the kind of burst damage that this tank excels at. Stops to take the time to thank his teammate who finished off the KV-4 there. And he didn't get away scot-free. And that's the major weakness of the T-57 Heavy, because its armour is kind of bad. The side and rear armour is just terrible. The frontal armour is covered in weak spots. And it looks like Ace does have the optimal combination of crew skills, consumables and equipment, because that was a 22-second reload. And he's now ready to do another 1600 damage, which should have been enough to kill this Caliban. Unfortunately, the first shot looks like it got eaten up by the side skirts and the tracks, and so the Caliban lives to fight another day. And again, he doesn't get away scot-free. The side and rear armour of this tank is really, really bad. And that's kind of a feature that's common to most American heavies, although they do have enough that they are able to side-scrape effectively against all but the biggest caliber guns, something that the M103 on the other side of the square over there has been doing very effectively thus far. Also, if I'm being completely fair, American heavies do tend to have deceptively effective lower glacis hull armour at the front, because it's not all the same thickness, and the sort of boat-shaped hull means that the lower glacis tends to be rounded and does encourage ricochets. It's not just one big uniform thickness slab of angled metal, such as in particular you tend to find on German tanks. And that can sometimes help you because people are conditioned to shoot for the lower glacis if they get the chance, because it's usually the weakest point at the front of the tank, but not necessarily on an American heavy. M103 still there, still side scraping, still refusing to take the bait. It looks like the E4's gunning for it. Well, that's a risky move, and not just because of the threat posed by the M103 and the Tornwagen. Yep, it's all the campers on the ridge overlooking the enemy base that have shots at him. He is taking hits. He's taking a lot of hits. But the enemy team are distracted, so you do need to back him up. Because that's the sort of thing that the T-57 Heavy excels at. It's not the sort of tank that can really effectively take the lead by itself, because the armour's bad, and once you've fired those 4 shots, you're completely defenceless until you're reloaded. But if somebody else, like the E4 there, is going to take the lead for you, this is absolutely one of the best tanks you could have as backup, because it can just swoop in and lay down the hurt. He's got 1 shot left. Is he going to go for the reload? And I think his train of thought here was, I'll save the shot because the Caliban over there is a 1-shot kill, but then again the Renegade should get him, and then the Renegade didn't get him, and got absolutely hammered for trying. But that's when he notices, partially thanks to the warning in chat from the Tiger 2, that the base is about to fall. And ironically, the only survivor up there is the light tank, who did such a fantastic job of spotting that everybody up there other than him died. So, yeah, reload the gun, fall back and defend the base against what looks like all of the enemy mediums. Which I'm sure in the mind of that Hawk player is fully justifying his decision to not advance with the standard B up to the top northwest corner of the map, and instead loiter around on the ridge with all the tank destroyers, because if he had gone up there with a standard B, he would absolutely have been killed. But again, there were better places that he could have gone other than camping the ridge over his own base with the tank destroyers. Oh look, it's the ELC, with a very aggressive mid-map scouting position. Perhaps the Hawk could have done something about that instead. I mean, you know, could have, should have, would have, didn't. He is at the very least providing useful intelligence on the enemy mediums who are capping the base. So he hasn't been completely useless in this battle. Ace stopping to take some shots at the ELC there. He doesn't want that guy's 90mm gun roving up his jacksie. And with a 22-second reload, he's got plenty of time to ensure that the gun is reloaded once he gets into position up here. Now, do you recall a couple of weeks ago I featured a Leopard prototype replay where the player got extremely lucky by ricocheting a large caliber shell off his paper-thin upper glacis, simply because it was angled so steeply that it was an automatic ricochet? And I said at the time that that's the sort of thing that only ever happens once in a battle. Well, you just saw it happen twice. So it's not often I'm right, but I'm wrong again. Although that Leopard prototype absolutely deserved to die, because when you get as lucky as that twice in one battle, you absolutely don't want to roll out in front of the gun shooting at you in order to tempt fate a 3rd time. That just leaves the standard B, and the Hawk is doing a good job of spotting the base. The standard B, however, while he went undetected after the first shot, appears to subscribe to the theory that if I just sit still quietly, nobody will be able to hit me. Guess what? He was wrong. Ace's 3rd kill and 4,000 damage. He's starting to run perilously low on ammunition, however. He only has 1 reload of armor-piercing ammunition left, and after that, he's on the gold. There's that Caliban who's been living on a wing and a prayer, and there's that horribly slow aiming time, but he does get the Caliban, and with 3 shots left, he's just blazing away because he's lost sight of the ELC. And, well, that unfortunately allowed the Jagdtiger to get a shot into his paper-thin side armour. I'm kind of surprised the Jagdtiger didn't get a follow-up shot into him as he was reversing, because the Jagdtiger does have a pretty good reload on its 128mm gun, and the T-57 Heavy, while it's by no means a slow tank, is definitely not a fast heavy, particularly when it's reversing, but he did get away with it. But he's now got his last clip of standard armor-piercing ammunition loaded, and now it's the Jagdtiger's turn to feel the pain. There's 1. There's 2. There's 3. And the 4th one missed. Yeah, this tank can push out surprisingly large. I mean, it's a 120mm autoloader. This gun does a lot of damage. He's up to 4 kills and, well, the combat log's saying 5,200 damage. He's done more than that. There were a couple of blind shots, at least 1 blind kill. Ooh, T-28. Here's the T-57's unreliable frontal armour again. penetrated by what looks like the T-28's 105 rather than 120mm gun, but then the T-28 commits the unforgivable sin of assuming that the tank that he just shot at and didn't kill wasn't going to take advantage of his side armour when he pushed up over that ridge. T-28 did nearly get a kill there though. He damaged Ace's ammo rack, which is still damaged. Why is Ace not using the toolkit to repair the ammo rack? It's not on cooldown. Well, he's still got 2 shots left in the clip. He doesn't actually need the ammo rack repaired until the clip is empty and he is reloading, so he used the 2 remaining shots to claim the top gun on the T-28 prototype and then fire his last shot in the general direction of the Jagdtiger again, and now he's repaired the ammo rack and he's got that 22-second reload again. That just leaves the ELC EVEN 90 and what must be an extremely nervous Jagdtiger. And the Hawk, again, in fairness to him, it looks like he's at least trying to find the ELC. He's circling the position where the enemy light tank was last spotted. Ace lets the WZ-114 know that he's ready to back him up, but neither of them can afford to take a hit from that Jagdtiger. Ace might be able to survive it, the WZ definitely cannot, but between the 2 of them, they managed to keep this guy distracted for long enough that the WZ is able to finish him off after Ace pumps a couple of rounds into the side of his casemate. That just leaves the ELC. The Hawk seems to be looking for him behind the base, which seems weird, but again, in his defense, and as you'll see later on in this very battle, you would be astonished at the places a tank like the ELC EVEN 90 can successfully hide. But he has been spotted in the middle of the map. Hawk takes a hit, chasing him in, and all the Hawk has to do here is wait. Just keep him spotted and wait. He doesn't have to risk anything. But he's been taking so much shit in chat, I think he feels like he's got something to prove here. Even though the ELC has definitely reloaded. I mean, they're both a one-shot kill. You can see why he's going for it. Unfortunately, his attempt to justify his actions thus far is only going to result in him taking even more shit in chat. And to be fair, that was not the smartest decision. I mean, you could say there was a 50-50 chance that he would have been able to pull that off. But there was a 100% chance that if he just stayed alive and kept the ELC spotted, that the ELC would have been dead around about now. Instead, they've now got an ELC on the loose, and you would be amazed at the places a tank like that can hide. And you've got 2 heavies, both of them extremely low on health, one of them extremely low on ammunition, and they have to find an ELC EVEN 90 with 2.5 minutes to go. And that ELC knows what he's doing. He's done nearly 2,000 damage of his own, and he's got 5,000 spotting damage. That is not an inexperienced light tank player. And he can easily win this match. He's got the stealth advantage, he's got the view range advantage. The only thing that Little Ace and the WZ have going for them is knowing when they've been spotted, which gives them some idea of where the ELC has gone to. Now, normally under these kind of circumstances, the way for a pair of heavies to get around the obvious disadvantages that they're subjected to in these kind of circumstances would be for them to go and sit in the enemy cap circle and force the light tank to come to them. But there's less than 2 minutes of the battle remaining. It would take both of them sitting in the cap circle to be able to complete the cap in the time remaining. And even then, they don't have enough time because it's going to take them at least a minute to get there. And even if there was time for both of them to win by capping, the ELC only has to kill one of them to ensure that this match would end in a draw. The WZ-114 is a one-shot kill. They keep getting spotted as they're crossing this open ground, and Ace's side and rear armour is not going to stop a 90mm shell. The WZ just took a hit. I don't think Ace noticed until now. The WZ knows where the shot came from and he's heading in that direction because he has to point his frontal armour toward the source of the incoming fire. Ace now also has to turn because he's also spotted and he's got even worse side and rear armour than the WZ. They have less than a minute to find and kill this guy, because this is now the only way they are going to win. And they only have 38 seconds in which to do it. Next, there's a bit of a good news, bad news situation. Ace takes a hit. That's the bad news. He's now a one-shot kill as well. But now he knows exactly where to go to find the ELC. He just has to find him. The ELC hits him again. This allows him to refine his approach. He uses his second last shot, firing blind into the bush, and hits nothing. Is he on the ridge up above? He's not, because you'd be amazed where an ELC can hide. And Ace gets him with 1 second to go, using the last round of ammunition that he had available in the tank. Which means that Ace has not only scored an ace tanker, high caliber and top gun, with 7 kills and 7,300 damage, he's also bagged himself one of the rarest achievements in the game, the Faden's Medal, which you can only achieve by killing the last tank on the enemy team with the last round of ammunition available in your tank. Unsurprisingly, Ace finished top on experience earned. Surprisingly, the Hawk finished second on experience earned, so while he definitely made some poor decisions and could have played better, he was by no means the worst player on his team and definitely did not deserve all of the shit that he was taking in chat. Equally unsurprisingly, despite doing 7,300 damage and scoring 7 kills, Hawk had to pay Wargaming nearly 30,000 credits for the privilege, even with the premium account. You know, you could say that there are many things that are broken in World of Tanks, but there's nothing broken like the Tier 10 gold economy. But anyway, regardless of the fact that it actually cost him money for the privilege of winning that battle, Ace is probably not complaining too much, because that was almost certainly the most clutch game he has ever played. So, well done. Congratulations on not just the win, but also the Faden's Medal. Everybody else, I hope you enjoyed it, and as always, take care, stay safe, and I'll catch you next time.